Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am your host, Zack.
Zack, we are here today starting our Nontendo series.
Dun, 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 dun.
We're going to be exploring some 3D platformers, not from Nintendo. We're not excluding Nintendo consoles. Epic Mickey is on the list. That's a Wii exclusive. But, not Mario, basically, is the point. And we're kicking it off with two that came out this year. We've got Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart. And while I did forget the case here, we've also got It Takes Two. But maybe not more importantly, but certainly of importance to me,
yes.
We've got beer.
Yes.
As we typically do. We've got to go with our series, the 5 episodes of this series. We've got 5 milkshake sours from Wild Mind Ales. Each of these are fruity lactose sours with milk sugar and various fruits. We have Planetary Shoes with pineapple, mango, and lime.
As always, we're not sponsored by these people, but we would love to be.
We would love to be sponsored by any people who would give us beer.
Yeah.
So this week...
There it is. Beautiful.
I nervously chew my nails, so sometimes I don't do that very successfully.
I've never chewed my nails. I've always cracked my fingers.
Yeah, I do that often enough.
Oh, see, it always gets silent when we get to the beer portion.
That's right.
There's this little moment, Thank you, sir.
There you go.
It is pretty cloudy for those listening. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, I think mine's going to be a little cloudier. I got the bottom of it, which that yeast sort of drips down to the bottom. Oh, where did you say that's in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's Wisconsin. I couldn't pronounce the name.
Meineke or something?
Yeah, Waunakee.
Waunakee, Wisconsin.
Waunakee, Wisconsin.
Wild Mind Ales.
Yeah, no, this is actually really good. I get the mango, immediately.
Definitely. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, very sweet.
I forget, we had a sour recently that one with Yoku's Island Express. I'd like to find some more of those. But that was really sweet, though counteracted by the sour. I think there's a really good balance here. A lot of mango. In fact, just straight up looks like mango juice.
Yeah, it's. I'm not picking up on anything but mango and lime from that list. I don't get
What's
the pineapple.
other one? Oh, pineapple, that's right.
I don't really get the pineapple.
It's there. It's understated, but it's there. It's odd that it's the first note in that list. It'd definitely be the last
mango,
note.
For sure. That's the first note.
It's good. I'm excited to check out the rest of these. I'm happy I found them.
Their Nontendo beer series.
Yes.
But let's get going, man. I want to talk real quick about the series. It's not as structured as some of our other ones. It's very much let's just play a selection of non-Nintendo platformers that we've been interested in playing. We actually don't have, the easy low-hanging fruit would be Sony's series of platformers. We actually only have Jak and Daxter. This time around, I would love us to play Sly eventually.
Yeah, eventually. I've not played any of those.
Personal favorite from that era. But we just have Jak and Daxter. But then I guess you could say we technically do because Ratchet and Clank. But
yeah, that's a
Sony.
Even though it wasn't, they were not a Sony company. It's a Sony game.
Yeah, I agree. I just think I excluded in my mind because it's modern, contemporary. I don't put it back there with the PS2 Sony platformers,
Sure, but it's been carried on for 20 years. This is the one that has really stood the test of time.
Yeah, which is sad, man. Not because I don't like Ratchet and Clank, but, man, I think both Sly... Oh, actually, I think Sly should have just stayed ended at 3. It was a beautiful little series. But I feel like there's a lot more you can do with Jak and Daxter, I think. There's a lot more. Anyway, we're talking about Ratchet and Clank, and I want to kind of go into what is your history with this series pre-playing Rift Apart?
Playing Rift Apart.
Yeah, okay. So
I've never even been in a room while someone was playing Ratchet and Clank. I think maybe I glossed over it at a PS2 kiosk at Walmart maybe, but really no history with Ratchet and Clank. I know it's a 3D platformer that focuses on weapons, but that's about it. So this is my first Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, and for me, it's my second. I played Up Your Arsenal a long time ago. Very long time ago, back when the PS2 was at its peak. So this is going to be my first time coming back to it in a long time. Mm-hmm. But I will say, just spoiler ahead for how I feel about this game, I It makes you want to go back and play some of the older ones, man.
Yes, or play this one again. Listen, I've heard a lot of complaints online about this game from veterans of the series.
Well earned complaints too.
Yeah, and I've been watching quite a bit of Ratchet and Clank content over the past week, and they all seem to be pretty well founded complaints. But as someone new to the series, I love it. I really like the guns that I've heard complaints about. Like the minions that run around.
Oh, dude, Glove of Doom.
Glove of Doom, love it. That was in my my final loadout.
That was my primary tool. Was the Gloves of Doom?
Really,
for sure. Yeah.
I think we probably have pretty similar loadouts.
Yeah,
you didn't use the mushroom, right?
No, but I did use. I basically tried to balance between minions and actual firepower.
Oh, I pretty much didn't shoot enemies.
I just, it's so useful when you have someone like the little minis run on the ground and you just have that sniper taking out anybody airborne after they get sprinklered.
I only used the sniper on the final boss. We'll definitely talk about the guns. Do you just want to jump right in and talk about guns?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I mean, that's what people love to remember about Ratchet and Clank. I mean, you could tell a lot about a person based on their favorite gun from the Ratchet and Clank series.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's just from, people
I like offloading all of my work.
Yeah, exactly. It's good stuff, man.
I like to delegate.
Yeah, delegate. That's the nice way of saying it. For me, I
had the delegation kit. All of my weapons did something else, and I would just walk around and continue to load up on ammo or go do whatever the task was at the time.
My number one favorite gun, without a doubt, was the sprinkler head.
Yeah, the topiary sprinkler. That is visually awesome.
Yeah, delightful.
Just when you've got these giant ships floating above head, you throw out literally a sprinkler. You throw out a sprinkler and everything just turns into giant bushes. And one of the recurring bosses, which there's two, very few. I think maybe there's 3 large enemies. But one of them is a really large, centipede sort of flying ship. When it's introduced, it's very, very much meant to invoke the scene from Avengers, where the large things are bursting through the sky.
The one that Hulk stops.
Correct, because he's always angry. It's one of those. But that flies overhead, and its tail will drag on the ground. But you throw that sprinkler out, and it's just this giant shade that you can throw grenades at. Which is what I did before I had the
full amplified damage.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's great. And that's what I used primarily before I got the Glove of Doom, and then one of the later weapons. I forget what it's called, but you throw out a drone that shoots missiles, and then eventually you can throw out 2 drones that shoot missiles. Until I got that, my primary gun of choice that wasn't doing something else for me was the grenade launcher. The glove. I like that they're just gloves.
Yeah.
So, throwing grenades.
Bomb, right.
And yeah, that sounds right. And if I needed to, of course, you're forced to use other things. I'd have to, but when I talk about what I used, I mean what I really invested my resources in.
Yeah,
if you run out of ammo, you have to swap. So I maxed out the sprinkler, of course.
Yep.
The first one I maxed out, however, was the mushroom. Was it Ms. Fungal? Shatter Bomb may have been the first.
Yeah, that was my first one for sure.
Maybe. So it was either Shatter Bomb or the mushroom first, then the other one second, then Topiary, and then I got the Doom guys, the Glove of Doom, and whatever that drone was.
Yeah,
those are what I maxed out.
Yeah, I got the drone. Basically everything you just said, except I also did the. It's the laser where you can kind of charge it up by holding the trigger.
Yeah, I didn't even buy that one.
Oh, it's devastating.
I bought the drill
because it goes through enemies.
Yeah.
So any tiny enemies come out, and because typically the Glove of Doom will attack either. Pretty much focus on one enemy at a time, at least one cluster of them. So if there are a bunch of small enemies coming out, I just charge up that laser, man, and just basically take out the whole.
Yeah, just sweep the whole thing.
Yeah, it's stupid. And then when you get it to max, because basically when you hit maximum level with a gun, which is 5, a new effect will be introduced. So at level 5 for this one, not only does it do that, but when it is done, the last thing that it is touching explodes, and there's just a huge
nice.
explosion.
That's fun.
So it was really satisfying. I had a lot of fun with that weapon.
Did you redeem the content that came with your pre-order?
I didn't.
You get the pixelator gun.
Yeah, I didn't.
That was a lot of fun.
That was one that was pushed pretty hard from the 2016 remake, I think. Quote unquote remake.
Yeah. So it was in an even earlier game. I don't remember which one, but it's definitely a returning gun. I don't know how many of these are. I don't know. I think the topiary is new.
A lot of them actually are new. Maybe not a lot, but I think at least half are new. I went and looked up which ones are new and which ones aren't. Glove of Doom is a staple.
Is it? Okay.
It's a staple, yeah.
So my loadout at the end of the game was, and this was like the combo I would do every time I got into combat. Throw out the... No, I actually wouldn't throw out the sprinkler yet, because the Glove of Doom and the mushrooms will take a moment to get over there. So to maximize the time for the sprinkler, I would first throw those guys out, and then they would sort of start attacking just as I throw the sprinkler out, which happens almost immediately. There's not really much of a downtime there before they actually get stunned and turned into a bush. So I would throw those out first, then the sprinkler, and then my 2 drones. And then I would just go do something else.
I'd do the same thing, but then I would just start unloading giant lasers at them.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Or
shatter bombs.
If it was a later encounter, I would start assisting. I'd probably go back to the grenade launcher. I also really like, for anything that was far off, I didn't use the sniper as you did. I used the ricochet gun. Or something
I
like
that gun. I thought it was a little too slow, so I didn't use it too much.
Yeah, but you can like upgrade things that make it faster.
Sure. Just when I got it, it didn't feel that good to use, so I didn't invest in it as much.
Well, the sniper wasn't available at the time.
No, not at all.
And
I was riding on that Negatron Collider laser. That was
I didn't even buy that one. So the ones I skipped was the ice gun. It's like a black hole gun or something.
Oh, I picked that one up at the very end. It's a chain gun.
Oh, I forgot. I used the lightning gun a lot in the beginning. I picked that one up pretty early on. So
why am I blanking? What's the lightning gun?
So it's sort of a fast assault rifle, but it chain lightnings.
I didn't pick that one up.
That one was fun.
I didn't grab the shield gun either.
No, I didn't get that. But I was going for something that, as much as I could, I was going for area of effect, and doing chain lightning. It pretty much counts.
I should have picked that one up.
Me.
That seems like something I would have liked.
If you throw the topiary into a crowd, then you can just start shooting them. But they're all, as you shoot them, which you can just spray it. Whenever one gets hit, it'll chain anything next to them. But if you're also then hitting that guy, it chains again. It's very good.
That's amazing.
But that one did phase out. I didn't max it out.
I do like that you can just New Game Plus this and get a whole arsenal. Yeah, that's fun. Well, I'm glad that we both had similar play styles. We don't usually, so it's cool that we get to sync up on this one.
We usually play. It was a lot of fun, and I did. I was about to be really bummed out. Like honestly, I was probably going to get pretty angry come the final encounter. Giant boss. Your platform is removed from the boss, so you're forced to use range damage. If this doesn't sound familiar, you can go back and listen to our Returnal episode, in which case the shotgun pretty much cannot be used on the third boss. So if you've dedicated your run to using the shotgun, which I did at the first maybe 2 encounters, or no, the first one because I learned my lesson, you really can't do much of anything. And that is also the case in this encounter. However, everything, like the things I had invested in did become useful, because on your platform, there's a bunch of enemies coming in at the same time. So you have to shift focus, wipe out the enemies, then do a little bit of damage. The arena sort of shifts, kill the enemies, do some more damage. I didn't have to do that because I just threw out all my junk and then pulled out some other weapons. Even though I didn't have them maxed out, was still able to unload a bunch of stuff on the boss. And I don't even think I attacked, like me as Ratchet.
Yeah.
I don't think I attacked a single enemy on the final encounter except for the boss, because I had 2 drones, 2 mushroom men, and what is it, like 6 of the minions that
Yeah, like
come
per
out.
bomb. Yeah, it's crazy.
So
And you can
that's a
throw
total.
all of them if you want. Like if you really wanted to, you could drop all 4 Glove of Doom ammo.
Oh, really? They do all? They stay around?
Yeah.
I guess I assumed they were going to disappear.
Because the drones do. Like the drones you can only max out at 2
Yeah.
or whatever.
Correct.
I straight up at one encounter just threw all 4 Glove of Dooms. There were 24.
Amazing.
Was
So if I did,
disgusting.
I didn't notice that. I would throw out another one while I still had guys on the field, assuming like their health was low or something, and it's just like, okay, before they disappear, I'll throw out some more. So I guess I just didn't catch that I had 20 out or whatever. So anyway, I would just throw those out, and I didn't even have to worry about the enemies on the platform. But right at the beginning of the encounter, it was looking like it was going to be one of those situations where my entire play style is invalid. But it wasn't. So I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And even if you don't upgrade a gun at all, it is still effective.
Yeah, the sniper rifle. I didn't put a single upgrade into that, but it got me through the final fight.
It's like it's also not like at that point not worth investing in something either. Like the upgrades are significant and impact how powerful something can be, and even how you play with it at times. Especially if you get to level 5 and get a new function for it. But even in that, I found that.
What was the extra function for? Actually, I don't remember the extra functions for any of them.
It's kind of up in the air for the support guys. It usually just like for example, the Glove of Doom. I think it adds automatically more. I don't remember actually for that one, but for the big explosion for the Negatron Collider, I think for the drone it lets you do the 2 back to back for them.
Is this something you have to like? It
At
just
level
gives you
5,
another
it just
ability.
immediately gives you a new function for it.
Maybe
Shadowrun
that's the
gets
case.
those little pinprick ones that explode after a little bit more time. There's a few, but I don't remember what it is for the summon guys because it was pretty negligible. You're still just going to throw them out and summon them and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
But for the actual guns, it's a more significant.
Did you? So you didn't use the mushroom guy at all?
Nah, I didn't even buy it.
Oh,
Mr.
man.
Fungus or whatever.
I loved it. It's aside from Topiary, probably my favorite gun because it does pretty significant damage. It's out for a while shooting. You can upgrade its speed, the amount of shots, the amount of time that it's out, and then when it disappears, it leaves an acid pool, and then eventually 2 of them come out.
Yeah.
And they're awesome. They're really, really cool.
That's definitely. I love that we started this talking about guns. That you can't not. That's really.
Yeah, it's Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, it shines. But I want to talk a little bit about the kind of just the world. That's what the first thing when I booted up this game and I logged in. Everybody talks about how pretty it is and all that stuff. Which it's a pretty game. It looks amazing. But for me, what really did it is you come into this world and the design of each space. It draws your eyes to interesting, spots. I think immediately of the of Rivet's stage at the mine or whatever, where you're switching between the destroyed one and the repaired one, or the fully functional one, and your eye is immediately, no matter where you are, like when you come back into that open space, it is drawn to that center giant contraption. These bright oranges and reds and these metallic, like these glossy surfaces. It really just a sense of depth to the stage as well. You can really like feel how far away that cliffside is or something. The world design in terms of an art direction is just stunning.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's a gorgeous game, more so than Returnal, I think. Like this
sure.
felt like a new next gen game to me.
Yeah, it looked fantastic. I really enjoyed being in that space. And even it really shows that it's not just the world, the character design. Like Rivet, I didn't need to know anything about Rivet. I didn't need to know anything about her character. I immediately liked her because of how she's drawn, because of how her character's presented. Just the rings in her ears, the way her ears curve, the way her whole body moves while she's walking. That's good character design, man. That's
and great
so
animation.
solid.
The animation in this entire series. Again, been watching plenty of Ratchet and Clank content from the get go. The animation in these games are awesome. from the first Ratchet and Clank. Though his teeth look really funny.
Oh, dude, his teeth
like
and his eyes.
Like his Invisalign braces are falling off every time he talks in the first game.
Yeah, it's old.
Yes.
And it's the cheapest one of the bunch.
Yeah.
You know, just because it was the first one. But man, the expression, even in the PS2 first game, it's night and day from anything else at the time like that.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's true here.
Yeah,
I mean, this is approaching, even during gameplay, this is like a pretty solid animated movie, like, you know, Pixar from just 5 years
especially
ago.
those rail sections, man. All the particle effects.
Yeah, all the rail sections were so fun.
Your favorite level was
my favorite level is the trash planet with Rivet. I just enjoy any time with Rivet more so than Clank, but the trash level, which is a bunch of grinding. You're grinding, doing platforming, like action set pieces in between each arena. And that's really what the game is. Just some light, whatever the activity is at the time, in between between the arenas.
You're not going to be jumping on, you know, platform to platform like, you know, a typical platform. It's typically a room, a space, and you're doing some sort of either function with that level's gimmick, or you're doing something with you know, the environment more than actually platforming a lot of the time. And honestly, the platforming itself, I tried to, you know, maneuver around a room, wall jump off some stuff, and it really doesn't feel very good. I'll say, if I'm going to say the one thing that I think needs a lot more work is, okay, am I going to grip on the wall? How far will I jump off? I'm just trying to, like, dash onto something. It's slippery. It just doesn't feel good to control, even compared to something like Returnal. Like, you and I mentioned when we played Returnal, immediately I could control Celine, like, and she's so responsive. Immediately cancels and turns around. Like, it just feels good to control her.
Yeah.
And I cannot say in a platforming game at all the same.
Well, I'm not going to argue that we shouldn't label it as a 3D platformer, but it's barely a 3D platformer. It just really by, like, reputation, I guess. But I would not put it up there with pretty much any other 3D platformer.
I think
just because there's no other genre to put it in, sure, I would talk about it in that same the same conversation
standard
as Mario.
action adventure, Uncharted.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's approaching.
Yes.
It's just a little bit, just not quite. You still have to, you know, jump between your rails and, you know.
I mean, honestly, Uncharted has better platforming than this game does. It's more of a platformer.
Well, I think that where the difference is there, though, is that, you know, there is still environmental maneuvering, jumping, you know, like the rail grinding sections. You're jumping between the rails, dodging some stuff. Have to jump over a few things. I think of the rocket boots level. You're having to, like, use the momentum to reach certain platforms or keep up your pace with those boots. It has platforming there, and it's in the DNA, but the actual jumping, hanging on walls, moving doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it's come a long way from being a 3D platformer. You're right, it's in the DNA, but it's way down there, and the parts where it feels like a 3D platformer are pretty few and far between.
And the worst.
And not always that great.
Yeah.
Now, when it's doing something with the platforming, like the grinding and boosting in the open area, that's fun. But yeah, the actual general platform to platform, it's not good. It's not terrible, but it's fine.
Yeah, and I wrote down a couple of, like, what this gameplay consists of. And really, there's obviously the combat, the platforming, what this adds that has always been in Ratchet and Clank, but I think just because being afforded that it's a PS5 game, we really didn't get a lot of Ratchet on PS4. It's a much larger area with more to explore, stuff that it's not as, you know, kind of tracked a certain way that you can really, you know, go in and out, do certain things at different times in the areas. It's a little bit more open like that. So you have that exploration in there as well, and then you have your puzzles, and that's really it. Which I know you weren't particularly a fan of the Clank puzzle sections.
No, and it seems like those are a occasional Clank section seems to be a staple of the series.
Yep.
Is that true? Well, here I thought they were pretty lame. The last section. Yeah, there's 4 sections. The last one was I did scratch my head a bit. It's definitely a puzzle section. So it has and you should be able to see the footage here. Like you're picking up orbs and putting them into a machine to do whatever that orb does.
Either weigh it down, lift it up, speed it up.
And I forget what the other one is.
Power,
slow it down, maybe.
Something.
Oh, yeah, just power something. So every machine can do something different with one of these orbs. Or it might not even be a machine. It might just be a platform on the like a section of the floor.
And you don't start with the orbs. Really, the puzzle is getting all the orbs and then just putting them where they obviously need to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty simple.
The last one is not that simple.
No, you're right.
Figuring out what the order is was an actual puzzle. I felt satisfied when I finished it. But overall, I think there's a better way to break up the gameplay, which is what those are really intended for. As you mentioned, you thought it was a good way to break up the gameplay.
Yeah, and I'd say for the first 2 times I did that puzzle, which is when I talked to you about it, I think it was fine. And, they were fun little, tiny little brain teasers. You just think about it for a second and you move on. Fun little dialogue. I really like that voice actor. I forget his name. The voice actor for
Frank?
Yeah,
He's funny.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think I've heard his voice multiple times in a couple different places, and he's a delight to listen to. He does a great job.
A lot.
So I liked them, but the third and fourth puzzles took much longer, and by then I was like, okay, let's
did take a while.
Let's move on. Like, I get it. Maybe if they've made a little bit more variety, maybe a totally different puzzle. Maybe a little bit more platforming.
It's the same thing.
Maybe going back to like traditional old school platforming sections with Clank or something.
Sure, if there was actually platforming, that would have been a little more fun too.
Yeah.
But they have something in the game that I would have liked to see much more of. And that's the other sort of, breaking gameplay with Glitch. So there's another side character, sort of a sidekick, Glitch, which is this little computer program. You stick her into a terminal that you need to break into or whatever.
Disinfect.
And it's infected with viruses or whatever is there. They're like actual viruses, like they look like cellular viruses inside of the computer. You go into this really awesome like different world. It's got a 360 view. You're crawling on every part of the wall and doing this little bullet hell sort of situation.
Yeah, but
not
it's
quite
like,
bullet hell.
What makes it interesting, right, is it's totally 360 degrees. You can walk up onto the ceiling and the camera will shift and stuff. And they really do some fun stuff with that, changing your perspective, having to manage all those different angles.
And you get some increases to your damage or a new ability.
A little
halfway
like,
through.
AoE blast or something.
I think those could have been made to be much more instead of having the Ratchet and Clank stuff, or the Clank and what is her name?
Right?
Kit. That's right. His counterpart that is Rivet's sidekick.
Which a lot of people are really passionate about the story. It seems a lot of videos I've watched really focus in on what
which is odd to me.
Disappointed in the story they were, and I'm glad people, really relate to these games. But Tyler and I, that's not usually why we play many games, and I didn't even think about bringing it up in the cast. Even like it's just it's a story. It's a fun little story.
No, I wasn't going to talk about it either. In fact, I thought it was fine. It
was fun.
I actually enjoyed it. There's
the
plenty of laughable moments.
Great.
Yeah, that's really what did it. The villain and his counterpart. And again, I'm not coming from other Ratchet and Clank games, so I don't know how this compares. I don't know if this is a significantly lesser experience than other Ratchet and Clank games, but in a vacuum, which I'm experiencing it in, I think it's a lot of fun. Platforming aside, the repetitive nature of the combat.
You do the Clank thing 4 times. It could have been 4 different sections, right? You do fight the same enemy types over and over and over again.
Yeah, there's very few enemy types.
It is
very
a repetitive
few
game,
bosses.
but it's also a short game.
Yes.
So I'm more than willing to
How
forgive
long
a
to beat puts it at like 12 hours? I think we both finished it like 7.5, right?
Yeah, I think it was 8 for me. Yeah, I just totally,
And I take a long time with video games. I breezed through this in 3 sittings.
Yeah, it's a quick game.
It's even shorter than how long to beat, which puts it at like a verified rating. A lot of people seem to be clocking in at about 12 hours. I don't think it is. It's pretty short. It doesn't overstay its welcome. So that repetitive nature, if it sets in, it is only right there at the end. And it didn't really even set in for me. I just heard other people saying that and can agree. I can see that argument. And I don't have anything to say against it. Except for I don't think it overstays its welcome. And it's short.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same statement, basically.
Which really, that's most of what this game is just pure fun. I don't really have much more. There's one more big thing I want to talk about, but really I've touched on I've kind of gushed about what I really liked about playing this game. I think it's a game that, I think of my friends who only play games for fun. They don't like playing games to, push them or think or they're not big. That is the way they relax. Mm-hmm. I know people who don't like reading difficult books, that books is how they relax. They just want to read a YA novel and be done, And the second I finish this game, I'm like, that person needs to play this game.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Absolutely.
Like, this is just so much fun. But I do want to talk about something that this kind of gives me a chance to talk about, I guess.
Well, there's one more thing I want to mention.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I know that's going to be the
straight up, it's a whole page.
Bigger part of the conversation. And that is the introduction of a new character. It seems to be, across the board, most people really like Ratchet. Does that seem to be
Rivet?
The case? Yeah, that's what I mean, Rivet. Okay. I love Rivet. Way more than Ratchet. Again, first Ratchet and Clank game, so I could be totally in the wrong here.
So I can shine some light on this. The current Ratchet that we have
is way different.
Is the modified post-movie version of Ratchet.
Okay.
He's been very softened. He's the typical plucky hero. He's not interesting. That's universally. There's a wonderful YouTube video I'll link in the description called How Ratchet Lost His Edge. It's about an hour long. And it's
a pretty deep dive.
It's a very deep dive talking about how different, not just like the gameplay differences or the set differences in the 2016 Ratchet and Clank versus the original. It really goes into why, like fundamentally, thematically, like how different it is. This is a advertisement versus what the original game is, which is Ratchet's really not a nice person, and he's a douchebag.
Yeah,
and he's very snarky and a lot more engaging of a character. He's in this very capitalist-driven world. Everything's an advertisement. Everybody needs to get paid. Nothing's for free, and he's just a really just kind of jaded young guy who just wants to get away from it all. Mm-hmm. Go on an adventure by himself, and he's not the plucky hero.
Yeah.
So he's a much more interesting character.
Though, even what I've learned about who Ratchet was before, post 2016, pre 2016, I still would have preferred Rivet. Just it's got to do with the animation, the way that the character is presented.
Seriously, immediately you see her and you like her.
Yeah,
what brilliant character design.
The voice actress, Jennifer Hale, she's always great, and she presents just a really lovable character, and actually a character, unlike the current iteration of Ratchet. Someone that actually has a character arc. As cheesy as it might be or predictable, it's still there. I don't care about that in this context, because it's a family-friendly game. I don't really like to say kids game all the time. It's a family-friendly game, just like watching a Disney movie or something. Occasionally you'll get a really deep character, but usually predictable character arcs that just hit home, that do resonate with most
people. They do the
people.
job. They carry a story.
And that's the case here. But if there was a Rivet and Kit game next, I'd play that 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Would not even question.
I'm hoping it'll be that.
I would be very fine if they moved on from Ratchet and Clank. Same gameplay. It would still be a Ratchet and Clank series.
You've already made multiple dimensions. Just bring back my old Ratchet back, too, while you're at it.
Sure.
Cut back there. I don't know. There's a bunch of things you can do now that you've opened to the multidimensional world thing.
Yeah. Which we briefly talked about the villain and his counterpart. Yeah, everybody's got a counterpart. Rivet and Kit are Ratchet and Clank's counterpart in this universe. The villain from the previous, the recurring villain, Dr. Nefarious, he has a much more capable counterpart.
The whole shtick is in the Dr. Nefarious we know, in his universe, the normal Ratchet universe, he always loses.
Yeah.
And in the other universe, he always wins.
Oh yeah, he is definitely like
He's a competent.
he has already taken over this entire universe and is looking to move on to another universe.
Yeah, in fact, he doesn't even like, the classic kids movie, the villain dies because he's, dumb or makes a mistake. Like, not at all. This guy he's totally got it. He'll immediately portal someone somewhere, like no questions. He's good to go. He tends to be pretty competent.
Yeah.
Which makes him fun too, because they introduce him late.
Oh yeah,
like 2/3 of the way through the game, and so when he shows up, he's had a lot of build up, and he comes in all.
He looks really cool too.
Oh, he's got a great design, especially when he stands right next to Derpy Nefarious.
Yeah, stupid Nefarious.
My favorite line in the game, I'm going to paraphrase it, is the Emperor Nefarious, the really big baddie. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, I finally conquered everything, and I don't know why I feel this way." And Dr. Nefarious comes like, "Do you think it's maybe because that was your entire life goal, so now your entire life is meaningless?"
Yeah.
It's just so great.
One of my favorite moments, like one of the biggest laugh out loud moments, was pretty early on. You, as Ratchet, break into Dr. Nefarious's like, not lair, but his office, basically.
Yeah.
Because he, like, I don't know where Emperor Nefarious is, but Dr. Nefarious has come in and is basically
setting up shop in his room.
In his, yeah, exactly. Like, maybe he's already gone to another universe. I don't know where he is, why he doesn't show up for more than half of the game. But anyway, you break in there and you like jump down on his desk. You think that he's not there because he's got this giant chair, but then he turns around and Ratchet's like, and then just like punches him.
Yeah, it's just so
it's very silly. Or the first time
the
you
choreography
get
of every scene is brilliant.
The first time you get the first PSA that you get. So Dr. Nefarious will occasionally release some public service announcement, and basically it's just like hey, find these guys and you get paid. He's looking for Ratchet and Rivet.
Nefarabucks.
Nefarabucks. Totally not fake. Absolutely real Nefarabucks. Yeah, very silly. But the way he like plops down in the chair and puts his legs up on the desk and introduces himself, it's a blast.
Yeah, it really is
a really
just
good
a joy
time
to play. I will definitely think of this game very fondly.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So yeah, let's just wrap up the conversation. I wanted to talk about open levels, right? Which is kind of a concept that has started to appear more and more, especially after Mario Odyssey came out. That's kind of one of my main reference points here. But What brought it to mind for me is there's a planet here called Savali, and the gimmick that you get, which, side note, you get to keep every gimmick that you get throughout the rest of the game.
And, yes, we didn't mention that, and you don't have to change anything except for, like, whatever you want to wear. You can unlock some different outfits between the two characters. It's the same loadout between Ratchet and Rivet.
Yeah, it'll all transfer over. They don't care that it doesn't make sense. Like, they're just they're like, whatever, who cares? Like, let's just give these players access to everything that they have. So, like, if I get the rocket boots, I'm not going to lose them every time I leave that planet. Like, even if they're not as useful other places, which they definitely aren't, but I can still just
they're
blast
not required other places, but they're as useful.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Like, there's never an explicit need for them, but you can boost through huge sections and go really fast, and those are the best items in the game. I love them so much. It's a great addition. Good. But that's what I wanted to bring up, is the whole of Savali is specifically designed around the rocket boots. You get them right when you start the level, basically, and you hold down R1, and then you kind of boost 3 times. You hit L3, and you go a little faster, a little faster, a little faster. You just kind of skate, and then boom, you're going max speed. And so you can take these huge jumps. Some of my favorite golden bolts in the game are hidden that way. Like, you have to find out. You can see the bolt up there on this platform, and you can't find a nearby ramp, so it's like trying to find the weird loop-de-loop way of getting to that bolt. And some of them are really elaborate. So basically, that level is what I'd call an open level. It's very Mario Odyssey designed, where it's not, a single corridor. I'm going to complete this section, and then I'm going to go to another section and complete that section. The sections are built into and over one another. And not as much as Mario Odyssey. Like, this is where you do this section. This is where, sections of the map that are just a combat arena or something. But it is a lot more open. And, the rail I'll use to grind to get, one item, or like one of the Lombax orbs or whatever, is the same rail if I take it a different way or jump off at a certain point. that will go into another section of, boosting or grinding that will lead somewhere else, right? Everything is built into each other. And I think it's a good example to communicate the idea of an open level is Savali. Because it's simpler than something like Mario Odyssey. Like, trying to untangle every moon in just a single tiny area in Mario Odyssey is an effort in just, first of all, awe at how they could design something like that. But the larger space of Savali kind of really brought this into clarity for me. And the first thing that kind of came to my mind, maybe because of the word, but that's a big, wide open space. What makes that space different from an open world, right? Like, why would I call this space in Ratchet and Clank an open level versus an open world? And I thought about it. I didn't know. Like, is it any different? Like, what are these things?
I would think so.
Yeah, and they definitely are, right? But it made me think about that. So the first thing that I kind of thought about is open levels are still a game level, right? They try to, usually a lot of the best ones I've seen so far, kind of build in a central gimmick or a central idea into this open level. And then, you're still making game levels, just in and weaving in and out of each other. I wrote that, they're typically way more compact, obviously, than an open world is. You don't usually... Like, you're not looking for something. A lot of times the focus is immersion in an open world. You'll have open spaces where there's nothing to do there, right? It's really just the focus being on how do I immerse someone in this world. Discovery is another focus of open world games. They really want you to, feel like you're stumbling onto an area of the map yourself, that you found that thing. Unless you just do a bunch of map markers,
Unless you do Spider-Man.
You do
As we established.
And then, another focus of open world is player-placed content. They're going to tell you, here's your side quest, here's your side quest, here's your main quest. It's your open level select screen. It immerses you more in the game.
Definitely.
Right? Open levels aren't doing that, though. They are, I put here, there's a focus on ingenuity, right? So player ingenuity, like, just kind of, you naturally will kind of move in and out, and communicating your goal very clearly, that's a huge difference from open worlds. Like, Breath of the Wild is good at communicating, like, vaguely, like, this seems like an interesting place to go. Sure. That's the discovery focus. But in open level, you need to know that is a golden boat. That is a Savali orb. Like, I need to be able to see clearly my goal, right? And then seamlessly move in and out of a level, quote unquote, classic platforming level to get there, right? It's a really interesting concept. I also wrote that there's this kind of focus on, and I think this is the main benefit, seamless progression, right? You're not getting kicked out of the painting anymore in Mario.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big deal.
Yeah, you're not getting kicked out of the painting. It is, okay, I found this moon, and there's straight up, I turn around and see 3 others, and there's no clear path to get, I don't know, okay, let me take this to get there. It's like, okay, I see those 3 moons. Let me just start heading this way.
I wonder if that initial, because I know that design was carried through the Mario series up to Odyssey. The same thing, you get kicked out of the level every time you get a star in both Sunshine and Galaxy. But I wonder if initially that was a design that was intentionally designed, like that was just the design philosophy, or if it was done that way because of hardware. Could you not render the completion paths for multiple stars? So in which case you'd need multiple bosses sometimes in a level. I wonder if it was required given the hardware and then kept up just because that was the precedent that was set, or if it was just an old design philosophy.
That's really interesting. I really don't know. One other thing, though, that did stand out is, if I can rocket boots here for this section of the area, I can rocket boots anywhere, right? Which makes sense, right? But, think about it in terms of platforming. If I'm Mario and I'm in this open level environment, right, I should be able to do that central gimmick anywhere, right? So, for example, in Mario, they'll consistently have the same handful of enemy types throughout that whole stage. So you can think, that's why the Luigi's balloons work so well, right? Because you can think of multiple different ways to an objective, to a balloon, because of, I know that there are, stalks that grow really tall that I can pop off of as Mario. at these locations in the level. And right next to those guys are some tanks. And you can start thinking outside the box because those tools, because the level's designed around a handful of those tools, they're present almost everywhere in that level. Same with Ratchet and Clank, right? The rocket boots are useful and used everywhere on Savali, right? It's consistent. It's really an emergent gameplay tool. I wouldn't call this emergent gameplay, but that philosophy is there. Like an emergent gameplay, if I can do this and the environment responds this way, it needs to be consistent everywhere. If I can blow up chain link fences with this kind of grenade, it should blow up every time, right? That kind of core design. And I'm really excited to see games, especially platformers and games like them, start to dig more into that open level design, that seamlessness, that ability to clearly communicate player goals, have these handful of tools that are consistent throughout that whole level so that you can start being, ingenious, right? Make your own paths, make your own ways to get to those objectives, even if they're silly or outlandish, right? Not just the explicit paths that are there. And you can kind of see that in some older platformers. Definitely not the old Ratchet and Clanks. You land on the planet. There's sure maybe some little side things you can go to here or there, but it's pretty much progression through the stages, right? Jak and Daxter are a little more open. We'll play that a little bit in a little bit actually, but it's a little more open. Like you can kind of see a couple spots. You're like, oh, I need to get up there to get that orb or get that. Well, it's not orbs. I forget what the energy power cells. I can see that up there. But it's still not quite open. Like it is pretty much just walk over and then start the level there.
I remember the first Jak and Daxter game being pretty open. I could be wrong. It's been a long, long time since I've played those.
It is open, but like it's pretty much you see something and then you go and then okay, now you're on the bike and the level starts. Or okay, now you're at the tower and there is a way up and it's a platforming puzzle and you get there. It's a lot less open, a lot more focus on just the immersion part of it. Like it's a kind of, we want you to be able to move in and out of the world as you see fit. But once you get there, the level starts, right? Once you, quote unquote, the level starts when you get to the base of the tower or get to the bike, whatever's happening there. Versus something like, Savali and Ratchet and Clank, or I even know Outer Wilds. Like when you land on the planet in Outer Wilds, usually the planet has a central gimmick.
Yeah.
Right? The planet has a central gimmick that you can use to solve multiple paths and get to multiple places in Outer Wilds. I think Outer Wilds is an example of open levels.
I wouldn't really call that an open world game.
Yeah, but there is that openness.
I mean, everything is seamless. You don't select planets. The entire galaxy is happening at the same time for 22 minutes.
Yep.
Or was it 26?
I think it's 22, yeah.
So it's all happening. It is open in that sense, but really each of those are different levels.
Absolutely. And I think that, they have that central gimmick and it just works. It's really well designed. So I'm excited to see more and more devs. I know that wasn't very an elegant way of describing any of that. It's still kind of muddy in my head, but it's ideas that I think are worth talking about and I want to see people address. And what are the differences? What makes that stand out aside from the old Jak and Daxter? Like, where are those differences, I
think for a pretty clear example of what you're trying to say, this is a pretty good example, but a maybe more isolated example would be Bowser's Fury.
Yes.
And just go watch Donkey's video on it. He talks about this concept for, 5 minutes or so, specifically about that 2-hour chunk, that one level in Bowser's Fury. It's just one little isolated piece of DLC, basically, that is taking the ideas that were presented in Odyssey and putting them into a maybe more traditional Mario game, something not as open or not strictly a 3D platform.
Not as interlocking. Yeah.
So maybe check that out.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
definitely a good way to get a feel for what you're talking about.
And even though they are so different, I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive. I think of both of Kojima's most recent games, right? Both Metal Gear Solid 5 and Death Stranding. So, for MGS5, sure, it's open world, right? It's truly open world. There are side objectives and different, areas you can go to, but each level itself, right, is kind of leaning more towards that Bowser's Fury. Like once you get to a certain town or certain area, it's designed as an open level. Even though it's an open world to get there and an open world outside of that space, it's very much more an open level.
Oh, design. I always thought it was actually like a separate level.
No. It's like
Oh, I didn't know it was a full open world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting to see how, even when you walk up to a tiny outpost, it's designed in a way that, encourages that emergent gameplay. It is an open level design, versus an open world design. Like once you get there, it's about your core tools. It's about the equipment you bring in and, using that in an effective way on your own terms, right?
Yeah, I've only played. This just came to mind. Could be totally off here because I'm only just now thinking of it. But though I've only played one Far Cry game, being Far Cry 3, I think their open world might be a pretty good example of that as well. Because from what I can remember, there are outposts, there are villages that you can sort of liberate, and different enemy types inside of those, different sort of layouts for the enemies, how you mix them up. This guy's got a rocket launcher, you got 2 snipers up there, just game design.
Yeah.
And then the animals. But then you've also got the traversal of the world. And let's see how to put that together. Like, I'm sort of thinking of the sound design of... just follow me here. Like the sound design of... goodness gracious, Grand Theft Auto 5, which is really genius. But as you enter and exit areas, the sound design, each particular kind of sound that's found in an environment has a particular sphere of influence. And as you get towards the edge of that sphere, those sounds get quieter and quieter. But there are spheres everywhere, all kinds of sound, birds flying, trees rustling, cars honking. And so in the middle of a cityscape, you'll hear the vents from the sides of the street, the cars honking, and you might hear that in whatever their equivalent of like Central Park is or something. But it starts to get quieter and quieter because it's encroaching on an already existing sphere, which is the trees rustling, the kids playing in the park, the birds chirping. You can still hear some of that, but it's less effective because of the prominent sphere that you're currently standing in. Which is what I remember the design being like for encounters in Far Cry 3. So you've got an encampment, let's say a sphere, this open level you're talking about. And so you've got the actual enemies, whatever's happening right there in the thick of it. And just outside of that, towards, coming out of that sphere just a bit, you've got the wildlife, that you can bring into and greatly affect that level. And then just outside of that a little more, you have the ways to traverse the world. So you can fly off of a mountain into another level, but that mountain might be in the immediate sphere of another level. So then you can affect like a giant ass eagle flying in with you and plucking someone's eyes out. I'm making that example up. That'd be cool if you can do it. But that's sort of how their design works. Those are separate levels in the open world, each with particular aspects.
But there are things outside them that can influence them and come in or out. And
but like a tower might be a very specific part of a level, but would be that sort of second tier that I mentioned, where you have the ways to traverse of another level sphere of influence, that is.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
Sorry, I just had that thought. That was not an elegant way of explaining it.
I mean, honestly, man, this is really murky for me. I'm still trying to quantify it. I hope someone else takes it and does something intelligent with it. But I really think that the best example I have of what I think this could become, don't roll your eyes at me, Death Stranding. I think it's Death Stranding. Because, so it is an open world.
How do we get here from a silly level in Ratchet and Clank? This game is not that important.
So like Death Stranding, it's this massive open world, right? Very huge mountains, valleys. It's just huge with a couple different objectives, right? A couple different objectives you can accomplish. A couple different pieces of equipment that you can, load out and try to accomplish this. But even for the same objective, I'm trying to get to this station and deliver these items, and I might pick up a couple items on the way that might affect that. Or I might need to drop something off along the way, trying to make your efficient route, right? Or something might come in the way and stop my perfect plan from happening. My level, quote unquote, is changing based on all of those things, right? Because it is so open that I am like carving a specific path that I have planned out, and something might change that path or something. And I might do that same level the very next year, the same quote unquote level the next year, and a totally different level will come out of it because of all those environments and all those variables.
I don't know, man. This one seems like a bit of a stretch.
I don't know, man. Like, if you think about it, the level itself, quote unquote, the game level is changing dynamically as it goes, right? Because the level itself is able to adapt to that because of how the game is changing. So you're treating
like every hill and river as a separate level?
I don't know. Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how far this can be taken. I'm like, this is
yeah, that one seems like a stretch. It'd be interesting to explore, but
because like The Witcher 3,
everything else we've talked about
to a destination to start a level, and I take a different path. That's not another level. That's just me taking a different way to get there. Like Death Stranding, the traversal is the game. Yeah. So you can think about each mission, quote unquote, is each level of the game, right? You're just that level is going to look totally different, not just for different people based on how they play, but just based on each session, each time you play. I don't know. It might be silly, but I'm trying to figure out how far this idea of an open level can go. But at its core, at the very base, I think Savali is the best example of what it is. Savali and Odyssey are the best example of what it is. It's just
Savali is one of the better examples of that.
For communications purposes. Not in terms of the effectiveness of it as an open level, but in terms of communicating those ideas. It is a open environment with very clearly stated objectives all around you, different golden bolts, right? All the different objectives that you as a player have, very clearly communicated to you. It has a core gimmick or gimmicks, right? And the entire level is built around that, and it interlocks, and it's totally seamless.
Okay.
That's what I think is at the core of this idea, and I think Savali communicates it fantastically.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my rant. I'm done.
All right. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really have any intention of playing any Far Cry game, but correct me if I'm wrong. I played Far Cry 3 soon after launch, so it's been a very long time. Haven't touched another Far Cry game, so could be totally off there, but I feel like it comes pretty close to doing maybe what you mentioned in Metal Gear Solid 5. Just talking about the way the levels are placed, not being on the level of...
Sure, it's not emergent. It's not as emergent.
Yeah.
It's still systemic, though, and I think those things come into it. But that's all I got to say for Ratchet and Clank, man. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I wish there was a mini-map sometimes. That's about it.
That's
the statement.
And scene.
I forgot to mention that until just now. Yeah, there's no mini-map. I had to look at the map a lot.
All right, man. Well, you ready to jump right in?
No, we're going to take a quick break. Be back in just a minute. Be just a second for you, but we'll jump into It Takes Two just after that.
Yep, thank you.
And we're back.
Whew.
Here to talk about not Ratchet and Clank anymore. I forgot my copy of It Takes Two at home, which is so sad because I like displaying our games on this.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Anyhow, we're here to talk about It Takes Two, another platformer earlier this year from Hazelight Studio.
It's cool that we're dumping into modern platformers first.
Yes, and we'll end on modern platformers as well with Kena Bridge of Spirits and Psychonauts 2. And you're going to try to make time for Psychonauts 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not in the official list, but I'm sure he's going to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll try to. Started a new job recently, so we'll see how much time I have. But
best of luck there.
Thanks. That's my main goal. Is I already have it ready to go. So we'll see.
What do you have it on?
Just playing on PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You have a copy? I didn't realize you had a copy.
Your copy?
Oh. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. So we're here to talk about It Takes Two. Hazelight Studios, that's the folks that brought us Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, and A Way Out. Now, I've not played A Way Out, but I am very fond of Brothers, probably more than most people. I do think it's really a landmark title, but unlike Brothers, It takes after what they started with A Way Out. This is an exclusively co-op experience. Everything is designed to be played with another human player. There is no AI in it. You have to play with another player. Either couch co-op or free online. Now, I say free. You still need whatever service that the platform requires. But
if one person owns the game, though.
Yeah, you only need one copy to play.
You can both play it as a client.
Correct. So that's nice. I'm very happy that they did that, and that they did that with A Way Out as well. So I'm glad to see that they're, bringing that forward. I'm glad to see that we have seemingly a co-op studio. We don't have many exclusively co-op games or games that are specifically designed for
and that's
co-op.
A key. Like, there are games that have co-op, but games that are designed specifically for co-op are just a step above. It's doing things that single player games just can't.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see you're right. Like you said,
wow,
we're doing it.
That's delicious.
Oh yeah, Tyler grabbed it. Why don't you grab the can?
It's
yeah. So he picked up a beer from the fridge downstairs. My wife's favorite brewery is Blue Owl. They do kettle sours.
Yeah. So this is a kettle sour. What is a kettle sour?
I don't know the details. I just know how it tastes.
That's a good beer.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that quite a bit. But unlike that beer, strawberry, watermelon, and coconut are all coming at me at the same time. And it's great. And this is a much more subtle sour. So this is Tiger's Blood from Blue Owl. Please don't give me COVID. Anyway, it's they even have the picture here. This is classic Tiger's Blood snow cone, and it has alcohol, so that's cool. This is really good, and it's not too sweet. With all those things in there, surprisingly, this is not overwhelmingly sweet. I like this a lot.
I realized that I hadn't tried it. It's been sitting in that fridge for however long.
You want some of it?
No, I just tried a little bit. I'm good. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway,
but
sorry.
Go ahead and jump in. I've introduced it, but go ahead and take us away, man.
So Tyler and I played it together. Obviously, we co-opted the whole game together, and we murdered an elephant.
We did.
A little beautiful stuffed baby elephant. They
murdered
make
it, ripped its arms off.
Yeah, they make you drag it down. It's like arm gets caught on a nail and it like tears off.
We'll jump into that.
It's brutal. This is one of the most violent games I've ever played. No, it's but no, you basically play as the story, unlike Ratchet and Clank, is a very core component to this game. It's kind of the central force that's driving a lot of the investment in the game. And you play as a couple. A married couple who are planning on getting a divorce, and they finally break the news to their daughter, and their daughter, is obviously upset, and she goes to the tool shed with her two dolls. She has a clay and a wooden doll of her mom and dad, and she starts crying. And when she cries on them, I guess the souls of her parents are transferred into these figures, and they encounter the most annoying character in all of video games. And he tells them he's wonderful.
Forget his name, Dr. something.
Yeah.
But it's the soul of whoever wrote this love book. Like what is that book that Christians like to talk about?
Love languages? Is that one you're talking about?
There's a movie based on it. Like Fireproof or something.
Oh,
it was called.
Goodness, yes.
Whatever that book is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about the love languages, but it's basically that. And she picked this up at school. She found it in the trash, and she thinks she can use it to get her parents back together.
Yeah.
But somehow some magic happens, and it's Honey, Our Daughter Shrunk Us is what this game becomes.
Just this annoying.
This book comes to life, and is this really flamboyant, boisterous, Hispanic guy that is a little too sexual for
he's
being
got some
a book.
Hip thrusts in there.
And he leans into it. He references his hips thrust often enough.
Yeah, he's
it's crazy.
He's fantastic. So basically you drop right in, and each each section of the game has multiple areas, but typically you have the same core There's some variety thrown in there, but the same core mechanic for each area. So, for example, the first area, after you kind of figure your way around and do the vacuum section, where it's just kind of
it's
teaching
a
you the
tutorial. You get a
platforming
boss
area.
pretty early on.
Yeah, but after that, the best part about this co-op game is each player gets a totally separate mechanic. So I will never get to use the mechanic Tyler gets to use unless I play the whole game again, right, as the other character. So he gets a hammerhead, which can swing on nails and break through obstacles. And I get this little nail that I can recall. I get 3 little nails, and they can, hold things in place. So, for example, an early puzzle is there are these moving platforms, and I can throw a nail into it to make it stick, and then throw a nail that that Tyler can swing off of. So, I'm having to kind of recall my nails at the right time, recall the right nails, and basically get him through this little platforming section, as pausing the platforms where necessary. It works well. It feels good, actually. I'd like to note that especially is typically each mechanic feels good to control.
Yeah,
they're fun. They're well thought out, and even the weaker sections of the game are made fun by the stuff that you get.
and I don't know about you because I played what's her name, May.
Yep, May.
I played the mom the whole game, and he played Cody, the dad.
Cody.
Yeah, I'd like to make note of her, whoever she is.
Incredible.
She's so good.
Yeah.
I really liked May. I'm probably going to mention her again later this year. Definitely going to be a contender for me.
Yeah, she's got an incredible presence in her voice. She really communicates the subtlety
you
of
can
the
get
emotion.
that's
very
it.
well.
That's it. You can get the exhaustion of being a mom and being the parent that brings in the bread, and having a husband like Cody, or just a spouse like Cody. That could go either way, but you definitely get those emotions coming through and all of the inflections in her voice, and it's really good. She's got a really great presence. I was happy to play her, but what I was gonna say is, I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't feel bored at all.
No,
There was
definitely
one
not.
time that, but it made sense in the narrative. It was specifically Cody's level, where I wasn't doing too much. My mechanics specifically complemented
And
Cody.
that happened for me in the next level,
Yeah,
where I really
it's
didn't
May's
have as much
level.
to do.
Yeah. You seem to have a little more to do than.
But
than
it's just
she did.
one thing. It's just throwing the symbol. Like, that's
Yeah,
it.
it really wasn't much. So sure, the last 2 levels are specifically Cody's level, and May's level. So either of them have much more substantial mechanics than the other person. But throughout the rest of the game, I didn't feel bored. Like my mechanic was fun the whole time.
Yep.
Did you find that to be true with Cody?
Absolutely, and we'll talk about some standout levels, of course, and that's how discussion will probably be framed, honestly, around those levels.
Yeah.
But overall, I would say that it's an extremely fun game. It is a good couples game, I would say. I know that's a good question,
Definitely.
especially since the theme is divorce. Is it actually a good couples game? Definitely is. And I think Girlfriend Reviews mentioned it's a great game for people who don't play games. Things are communicated well. The pace is good for someone who's newer to video games. I'd say it works well, especially if you have one person playing who is pretty well versed in games, and you have the other. They won't fall behind. They won't feel too out of place. It's
unlike any other co-op game. I don't think you really need someone that is well versed in games, because unlike any other co-op game, everything is so well balanced in this game. I think in terms of the platforming in the puzzles, no one person is taking the reins here, like saying, hey, go do this for me, I need you to go do this so I can do this. Everything is communicated to both players whenever it needs to be. And when you do finally come around to somewhere, if it's taken a little too long for the other player to catch on, May will be like, Cody, go try this. And the game itself will telegraph what you kind of should be doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that either of us had to take control.
No.
Not just because we are, well-versed players, but the game is just very good about leading both
Delegating,
players.
yeah.
So that's definitely a huge plus.
And that delegation too. You have moments where you feel more in charge of the situation, and moments where the other person does, and you really do have to work together. And I think thematically it works well. Each person has different mechanics entirely that work well in tandem if you use them together well.
Yeah.
So I want to mention just right out the gate, though, if I can jump ahead, my favorite level, and I think the one that exemplifies what this game can really do when it's firing on all cylinders, and that's the cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
Because basically Cody gets a mechanic where he can turn back time for certain objects, so like repair a broken object or break a repaired object, right? Just back and forth. And you can stop halfway through the repair or, whatever. And May gets something where she can leave a little glittery image and, walk away and do something else and then snap back to that image. And she is now in the place that she left that image. So, I can fully repair a bridge. May can walk across it, leave one of those images, walk back across the bridge. I can break the bridge, but now that bridge was broken by a little owl head that fell down, and her image is left right where that owl head is, so she can snap back to it, and then now she's safely across. Even though the bridge is destroyed, she's safely across, and I can raise her back up to the top, which is where we're trying to get her to. Just ingenious. Little
those are the best
mechanics.
puzzles in the games. The mechanics don't do much for, except for the final set piece in that level. They're really for puzzle solving. Most of the other mechanics in the game are all based on traversal or the light combat in the game. This is almost purely puzzle solving. Which I thought was great. It is one of the standout levels.
It's definitely where it shines to. The combat's it's there.
It's fine.
It's not trying to be anything. It's definitely just making use of the mechanics you have. Another standout area was the castle, the elephant's castle. You get
the toy area.
Yeah, you get about halfway through too, and it becomes a top-down dungeon crawler.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of fun. A lot of different mechanics here. They're doing quite a few different things.
Oh yeah, man, the kitchen sink.
There's a scene in there where it's Street Fighter. It becomes like the bad guy is like hanging on to the back of your little plane, and so May jumps up on top of the wings, the enemy jumps up on the wing, and the camera shifts, you get health bars, and now you're playing
and
Street
the other
Fighter.
player, so me, is having to balance the plane.
Oh, yeah.
So as they're like moving across it to keep it level so they don't fall, so May doesn't fall
Yeah,
off.
but there's also things like flying at you, so you have
to dodge
get things
them.
out of the way. It's great. It's a lot of silly fun.
But silly fun that's not just, I can think of games that feel gimmicky where you just throw something in just either for a joke or just for a quick filler section. Every time they threw something new, it felt well thought out. It felt like an intentionally co-op designed moment. Like you said, it delegates well, even though there might be the spotlight on one person, the other person is still a very integral part of succeeding in that section. And I think that's really where the mastery shows in terms of the design of the game, is in those moments. I do think it surprised me how long the game was, actually. I think it's meant to be played one chapter at a time.
And we both had this feeling it's a bit long. I think it's the way we played it. We weren't able to get together very often. We played it over 3 sessions, pretty long sessions, because it's about 12 or 13 hours.
Yeah, definitely play it in chunks if you can.
Play it in smaller chunks. I think we would have thought about it I don't think it would have felt like it overstayed its welcome if we could play it more regularly.
I think that's the case
if a couple were to play it, some folks living together, I think you'd have a better time there. But for us, our schedules weren't working out last week, and we had to play in one short, like just an hour. We did play one level, but then the other 2 were pretty substantial play sessions. And by the end of the game, you were getting pretty exhausted of playing. Yeah. That was like a 5-hour session. So I think most other people will have a better time with that. So I don't want to make that like a firm statement that it does start to really bog down. I think it was the way we
definitely. If you play it in chunks, you'll be fine. It is long though. Like, be prepared for that. It's not a quick little fun co-op game that's 5 hours and you're done. Like,
it is 13 hours.
It's a beefy game.
But we had to play for 5 hours at a time. So
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
It's fun though, and like there'll be little things that are totally not even necessary. You can pick up snowballs and just, of course you're gonna throw them at each other.
Oh, so many things. This is actually one of my favorite things about the game is the toys. You just get to play with toys like snowballs. You already know how to play with a freaking snowball. In the attic, there's a bunch of like baby toys from her. There's like, I don't know. Yeah, there are a bunch of baby toys. And now as a little action figure, as a toy, you can jump inside the ball that has like the different shapes that you're supposed to put the shapes in and roll that around, like walk around it like it's a hamster wheel or something. Or let's see.
Fun to control.
The instruments in the, I don't know if that's like another part of the attic, wherever you are later. There's some instruments you can play. But you're like hopping around from, one key to another or darting across the entire keyboard. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything. They're literally just
And I think those
toys.
moments are far better than they have quite a lot of set pieces actually in this game. I'd say even too many at some points.
Some of them are a bit much. And oh my goodness, their use of slow motion is
all the time.
Silly. It's not even like
it's like
dumb.
It's like early 2000s level of slow motion. Like everyone had just seen The Matrix,
yeah,
and now
there's
everybody
so
needs
much,
to do slow
and
motion.
it's like, oh, that's funny, and then you're like, stop this.
And then
it's
like back to back in the same sequence. Like, I mean, a couple seconds of normal motion, then right back to slow motion. You're like, dude, or should I say, dude?
Oh yeah, and the dialogue is in slow motion, of course. But it's like a Family Guy joke. It's funny. Then you're like, all right, freaking stop already. And then the fact that it's still happening is funny, more so than the joke. My favorite one, World of Pure Inebriation.
Yeah, World of Pure Inebriation.
Yeah, that's
it's so good.
The song. Anyway, it's silly. It is very silly.
So it definitely is a good game. I think that there are because it's so long, and even though, like I said, every mechanic is well thought out and well designed, I think there were some opportunities to maybe shave off some of those chapters and really, if they were to draw out some of those levels longer, like again the time and teleport mechanic, I think like that's really good. Maybe tack a little bit more onto that halfway through and do more with it, or maybe there's one of my other favorite mechanics is you get the ability to walk on walls in certain areas, and I get the ability to change my size to either big or small.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
That was a really good one.
Definitely a good one.
And that was really short. It was like done. Really, I think it's one of the shorter sections in the game, and I was like, man.
But I like the structure of that one a lot because it is, it's very explicitly 6 separate puzzles. There's 3 rooms you go through. You finish all of these. You go up a tower, and you finish
a lot of
3 more
times
rooms.
don't feel like you're like, okay, when is this level done? Like where is the end? Like it just feels like it's happening. That one is like a very clear sense of completion and progression, and I think,
actually did like that one. Sure, maybe one more floor would have been good. So 3 more little rooms.
Mean, like, not with the same mechanics, but like maybe do another spin on that same mechanic halfway through, like add something to it, or like throw a wrench in it or something.
Sure.
You know, I feel like I wouldn't have been disappointed. That's not a complaint against the game. That's just something that I would have maybe liked to see as just based on my tastes.
Yeah. I feel like there's at least one level that probably could have been taken out to the betterment of the game. Not because it's too long, which we've already talked about how we feel about that, but I think shining a light on some other mechanics instead of having this section, which is the tree inside the tree with the bees.
Yeah, so you have the sap gun. I get Cody gets the sap gun, and I
get a gun that shoots
lit matches.
So
correct. And you can ignite the sap, so you can make a little trail, blow stuff up that you can't quite see. Things like that. A fun little puzzle mechanic, but I would say something that stands out, that's a super set PC section. Lots of set pieces in that section. Lots of the same use of that. It's a more simple mechanic. It's not much you can do with it. And I agree. I think that's the weakest section of the game. And it's unfortunate it's so early.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate it's so early.
It's fun. I mean, I do have fond memories of it. And actually, I think the boss fight is
the
a
best
lot of
boss,
fun.
I think. Yeah, the bee, queen bee, or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. It does some different mechanics there, and towards the end, things start to get a little crazy. It's fun. That's a really good boss fight, but the section as a whole, it's fine. It's just fine, and I think you could have expanded on some other things, and that would have shortened the game by about an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah. It's a real shame this game just isn't Army of Two. That seems like a much better.
Oh yeah, way better co-op game.
experience.
Yeah, if you're gonna go play a co-op game, just make it Army of Two. What is it? Sons of Anarchy? Whatever. Sons of Liberty, right?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I genuinely have no clue.
Okay, well, we're gonna put a pause on this series, and we're gonna come back next week, having finished the 2 Army of Two games. We're not gonna do that.
Yeah, please don't make me do that.
No way. No freaking way.
Amazing.
And then it's the first level that I felt that I was kind of a little bored, and that was Cody's level. But in retrospect, the placement and the reason for those levels being there, I wouldn't cut them now. I said initially that maybe the plant level with Cody could be removed, but I do think they're important to let, especially because the narrative is such an important part.
And I get to play as a cactus.
Yes, a cactus that shoots pins
yeah.
at people. So it's good. I allow you to play Plants vs. Zombies.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I mean, they're zombies. They're straight up plant zombies. And I, as May, spray water. I think that's the only thing I can do.
Water and then the scythe. Where you just chop
Oh
them
yeah, she gets a little scythe. So
do
some
more.
melee damage. But her main gimmick is the water gun. She's got a Mario Sunshine sort of weapon.
It even clears splotches of poison or whatever.
Yeah, so I can clear the way for him. I can put water in a pot, which allows him to turn into the various the various plants,
Flowers and
then
stuff. And
I can put it in like a I don't know what they're called, but the sort of plants that have, it's a victory bell, whatever victory bell is, the Pokemon. It's one of those, and I fill that up with water to make something come down. You weigh it down. It's a little boring, and the entire reason for it being there is to allow the other player to shine, and then immediately after that, he does the same for me. So I will take back my statement from before. I think those are good levels.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad all of them are there. I mean, they're all fun, and I have good memories of all of them. Not enough people make co-op games.
Yeah,
like games that are specifically designed for co-op, and to see one not only done well, but at this scale, that is 13 hours long. That is a big, meaty game that not only is fun, but this is one of the few games I'd recommend to basically anyone. That's a feat all on its own. That I think that is too many games like that can just feel generic or bland or just pandering. This game is not that. It has a lot of heart.
Nobody else is doing it, man.
A lot of creativity, and they do it well. It makes me more excited to see what they do moving forward.
And I don't think it had the best reception, but I would like to see what A Way Out is
I'm happy
all
to play
about.
with you, man. We got a lot of games to play.
Yeah, maybe some other time. And I don't think pretty sure it's not a platformer, but we can probably find something else to accompany that in an episode.
Army of Two.
No. Not Army of Two. I don't think we'll ever have that on this cast. So if that's a point of contention for you as a viewer, I'll let you know now.
Sounds like you need to jump on our Discord, which you can get access to via Patreon.
That's right, and let us know why we're pieces of trash for not liking Army of Two.
Yeah, and you're the kind of person I actually want in our Discord.
Correct.
So
I want to know why Army of Two is good.
Yeah, you're the kind of person that I would love to grab a beer with.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I just watched an hour and a half video on Alpha Protocol. That game sucks. I watched just today another hour on Need for Speed Carbon. That game is fine. I want to know about those games.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would like him to do an episode on
Have you say
Army of Two.
Well, we'll link him in the description. Well, we both discovered him fairly recently.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. He does incredible work.
Yeah, we'll share that Alpha Protocol video.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Pick yourself up a physical copy right now because it's super cheap and not available anywhere else. It's taken off of Steam.
Yep, because of
licensing
for the song, right?
So pick one of those up and put it in the closet for a couple of years.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And by good stuff, I mean probably not that great.
Yeah, correct.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about? It Takes Two. I mean, it's really.
Yeah, we can talk about the levels and some of the. I mean, we've talked about the levels. It is a pretty traditional platformer. Otherwise, has some bouts of combat, bouts of puzzle solving, and then a lot of actual platforming. And the platforming is focused on the co-op aspect of the game. It sets that up immediately in the first level. There's moving platforms. You have to shoot your nail to stop the platform. I jump, and then you have to time the release of your nail and my jump pretty successfully. And it's a forgiving game. Like, nothing is
if you die, you're right back at the beginning of that little section. Like that puzzle.
Yeah, and just the one player. Like, it's not going to set both of you back unless you both die at the same time. Because there's a very light cooldown for the one player's respawn, and if during that pretty quick cooldown the other player dies, then you restart. Otherwise, you're just right there, basically where you were standing. That was very close. However, yeah, let's just talk about some of the additional mechanics there, or some other areas we might be fond of, like the snow area. We talked about we talked about the
there's a pretty
snowball fight.
Water section in there.
Yeah, right in the middle. There's a slow and short water section. There's not much going on,
but the rest of the level is around these magnets.
Yeah,
right. And so the level starts, and this is what I was talking about, where it'll get a twist on that core mechanic about halfway through the level or near the end of the level. Right. For this
that's one of the times I really. In fact, probably one of the only times it does that.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying I'd like to see that more in the earlier levels, right? So basically, we both have two sides of a magnet, which, as May points out, doesn't make any sense from a scientific standpoint. But, so I get the blue side of the magnet, and May gets the red side or whatever.
There's a couple other things she comments on. So she's an engineer. She's a very smart person, and Cody's a dad. And that's his job.
Yeah.
I mean, he's straight. He just makes all the dad. He is quintessential dad. So that's it. That's the depth of his character. Not true. No, they both are pretty well-rounded characters, but she's definitely the brains. He's the comedy. And she makes comments on a few things like that. They're like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's great. And he's the one who's like, man, just go with it. Like,
yeah.
He's like, you're literally made of wood right now. He's great. So if I have the red side of the magnet, I can yank myself toward, blue blue magnet spheres, or like little stations. Things
in the world that allow you to magnet to
and
them.
then if I'm the same, it'll repulse me, and I can jump really high with it or something.
It will repulse you.
I said repulse.
Sorry.
I said repulse. Leave me alone.
I think you meant to say repel or repulse, and you couldn't decide.
How about both of them? You're repulsive.
Correct.
Anyway, you're right.
So if there's like a red one on the floor, you jump on it with your red magnet, and it bounces you really high.
It repulses you. That's amazing. That's me title this video. Repulsive.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's but then there are other a blue side that you don't get yanked to it. You just push it, like you can move that object, right? So it's a cool little mechanic. But then near the the last third of that area, then you get the ability to attract toward each other. So you were like, it feels really good. Full speed whoosh across the map, across the whole section, over giant gaps. May can now fly to me and be attached to me with her magnet, and then you can disengage. So there are puzzles where you have to time it so you both go toward each other at the same time and land in a center section somewhere.
Or I don't remember if they do this, but I feel like they should have if they didn't. Parts where it's not, you just press it at the same time, where May might need to get a jump start, and then
I don't think they did.
But you get what I'm saying. So it's not a center collection, like you have to land over here or something.
So that was a really strong mechanic. Worked really well.
And the environment was great. I mean, I'm a sucker for
You're
snow
sliding
areas.
on tusks and animal like bones.
Dude,
and
yeah,
stuff.
the grinding, just like from Ratchet and Clank, a ton of fun, and then you're ice skating through huge parts of the level, like in Mario Galaxy. It's just really entertaining. It's a great level, great balance of set piece and puzzles.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably my second favorite level. Actually, now that I think about it,
I like it a lot. Even with the water section, right?
Yeah, even there,
it's fine.
Yeah, and it's short. It's done.
And actually, you swim really fast because there are buoys that are like chained down. That both of you can attract to. So you're swimming, but then you can just like attract yourself to it and boost forward pretty significantly.
And we didn't mention this, but every level has these little moments where it's not an official competition, but like they'll go, "Oh, I'll race you to the bottom" or whatever, you know. Yeah. And so you
they're mini games that you can do.
Well, I just mean like even outside the mini games, like where it's like they'll just say, "Hey, I'll race you to the bottom."
Oh yeah, and then they comment on it.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, I beat you," or whatever. Oh,
yeah,
you're
that's
so
right.
Slow.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's that healthy competition in there. It's fun. It's well done, and
yeah, and a race it's totally natural. Like a race doesn't even start.
No, like
it's just these two people would probably be doing this.
Like
thing.
if Tyler and I both had cardboard boxes and there were two sets of stairs, we'd go, "Bro, you want to do this right now?"
Yes.
It's that's a good one. We didn't mention May's level, the final level. Basically, Cody gets a little symbol he can use to cut things with and throw, and it'll come back to him like a boomerang. But May,
like Captain America's shield. I don't know why he said boomerang. It's Captain America's shield.
It's Captain America's shield. Yes, that's. In fact, they comment on that.
Yeah,
I'm a superhero.
And one of them even says, "Okay, thanks, Cap."
Yeah, thanks, Cap.
But Cody says it, so I don't know why. Like it's not the other way around.
Because he knows May won't.
Oh, he's saying that to himself.
Yeah, he just. It's like giving yourself a high five.
That's silly.
So, but May has like she can sing, which will charm microphone snakes. They're like they're straight up just mics that are snakes.
So everything is based on some sort of like garage band setup. And the like if this were a square microphone, this would be sort of anthropomorphized as a snake. And yeah, you can charm them. You can just hold
Cody smashes their weak spot or whatever while they're charmed. It's
alternatively, so that's what happens if you hold the interaction button. Alternatively, she just has Fusro Da.
Yeah,
which is great.
It is just Fusro Da.
That's all it is. So you can stand it like one of the sections is there are 4 mics with tape on them labeled A through D, and Cody has to stand on a platform. And it gets moved around. It's a floating platform that gets moved around. And it's got speakers attached to either all sides of it. So you Fusro Da into each of them to sort of push it in either of those directions. That's a pretty fun section of the level. The level as a whole, mechanically, was fine.
Yeah,
I don't think it was that great. Like I think you probably had more fun as the plant in Cody's level than I did with May. However, visually, I love this level. So it's very psychedelic. That does it for me. If you don't know already. So yeah, just the trippy nature of it. There's a point where there's like platforms that are disappearing, and you have to walk on like these mirrored sections to light up squares that will then appear somewhere else. I like doing that, and you like literally fall into a kaleidoscope, things like that. And then you just fall into the void of music and become one with it.
Pretty cool.
And then the game wraps up. Like that's
the end of the game.
Excuse me. That's pretty much it. You get a little kiss, and then they wake up, and they decide. Are they staying together? No official decision, right? Yeah.
Nice and ambiguous.
I don't know how it. There's a kiss at the end, but just right there, just before that, it was still pretty unsure. So I'm happy that they left it open. It could be sort of a Miss Doubtfire situation where divorce is a real thing that people have to deal with. It's not always a happy ending. And I'm not quite sure where this game
Intentionally
wraps
ambiguous.
up. Yeah, I don't think the kiss is telling enough, especially with the continued banter between the two of them up to that point. There was like some fond memories shared in the ice place, but then immediately after that, they're back to arguing. So, yeah, I like that it's ambiguous. Arguing is healthy, but they are, they're putting each other down. They are bitter. Yeah, they're getting divorced for a reason.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I guess the only thing we haven't talked about is the elephants stage, where there's not actually a central core mechanic. It's actually a couple little sequences with environmental mechanics. So fly around on a fidget spinner, or
that was actually a ton of fun.
Oh, that was probably one of the most fun parts.
So fun.
And there's like a cannon section where you're shooting each other out of cannons and stuff.
Yep. That's right. It was just a bunch of environmental.
And then that we talked about it. You get a sword and I get some ice powers, like a top-down dungeon crawler.
Yeah, that section was fine.
Oh, I love that part. That was fun. I had a blast. And it's so short. Like it was just
that's it. It was fun for 5 minutes, and that's all it was. It was 5 minutes. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great, and it all wraps up though in Tyler's favorite moment of the game, which I have to agree is the best. You are trying to make your daughter cry because you think that is what's, if she cries on you, then you'll transform back. That's what Cody thinks based on his many readings of fairy tales, and he. And you basically find the elephant princess. It's her favorite toy, your daughter's favorite toy, and you decide to destroy it.
Well, you get there, and this is the queen of this kingdom, this toy kingdom, and you get there, and she's like, "Oh, you're so sad. I could give you a hug. I know how to help you. I'd really
the actual most precious being.
Yes, just so sweet." And one of them accidentally lets slip. No, we have to kill her. And the elephant hears this.
Like, I could use a hug. Like,
yeah, that's Cody. Like, I could use a hug, but May is like, no, we have to kill her, Cody. But the elephant hears this and is like, no,
oh no,
and it's just like the shortest little stubby legs, and she's like running around in circles, doesn't know what to do.
She tries to escape in this rocket ship, but you like knock her out of the air, and she falls into a claw machine game, and is like, oh no, like running around.
So you've got to use the claws together. Like one person controls the horizontal movement, the other person controls the vertical,
and she
just snaps into her head.
Yeah,
and then you throw her down the chute, but her leg gets stuck in it. So you both go down and you pull on her ears, and her leg rips off. And so now you're dragging her, and she's like trying to stop. You're dragging her to the edge of this the bookshelf.
We can talk about this.
It's at the top of the bookshelf. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
And then you get to the, something falls over and a tack comes and sticks her ear in the ground. You don't stop to do anything. You continue to pull, and then her ear comes off, and she's crying. And then she gets to the edge, you push her over, and she's grabbing on, begging for her life. And you're just like Mufasa, just let go of her. And she falls down and dies. And then the daughter finds her and starts crying, as you think. And it gets even worse, because she's there crying on the bed, and Cody's like, oh, quick, we gotta go before she stops crying. You get down there, and you're like, joyously, literally bathing in her tears.
It's just the best.
It's psychotic. But I love it.
Yeah, it's that's definitely one of the most memorable section in the whole
insane.
Game. It hurts so much. It hurts so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the game. It's one I'd recommend to anyone listening. Seriously, it's a joy to play. Well designed. Can't wait to see what more they have to offer.
Yeah. It's that's basically it. That is It Takes Two from Hazelight. Definitely go play it with a significant other if they play games, or even if they're vaguely interested in engaging in your hobby. It's a great place to start. A lot of people recommend co-op games, like maybe Undercooked, or I've recommended several times Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time.
It's a good game.
That's a little more complicated than either this or Overcooked. Like Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time is a little more for gamers,
sure,
that want to play together. But this is a great place to be. And do you remember? Can you adjust difficulty?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's not a particularly difficult game. Everything is clearly telegraphed to you.
Yep.
And it just works. And you're not going to get an experience similar to this anywhere else. So
Yeah.
definitely give it a shot if you'd like to play a co-op game. Or just a 3D platformer. It's a lot of fun.
It's a good one. All that being said, we're on Twitter, Instagram. We kind of need you to follow us. We need some support here. And then we also we have Discord, access to that via our Patreon.
Instagram.
Yep.
Be showing some of my recent pickups soon.
Good stuff everywhere, all around. We'd love to have you. We need some help building a good community. One that just likes sharing games. Even Army of Two. I'm dead serious. I'm not joking. I want that person in our Discord. I will love you so much. So maybe that's a threat. Just please come, and we'd love to have you. And that's it, man. Yeah, this has been a good cast.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time with... What do we got? Prince of Persia and Beyond Good and
That's
Evil.
the 2008 PS3
Yes,
Prince of Persia.
one of my favorite games. This is one that sort of the reason we started the cast. Games that we've been recommending for a decade. This is 12 years now, 13 years now that this game has been out. I've recommended it over and over. Finally get to share it with Zach.
Yep.
And then we both get to visit a modern classic. Could you say it's a modern classic?
Jack and Daxter?
Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
Would you say a modern classic or just a classic?
I think a cult classic. It's a cult classic.
I think it's moved beyond cult status at this point.
I don't know. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
That's
about
correct. So $2 on Patreon, get in that Discord and let us know if it's a cult classic, a modern classic, just straight up a classic.
That's good stuff. Yeah, and just guys, don't forget, share what you love with who you love.
Thanks a lot, guys.